Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Edosa, Mr. Michael, sorry, for the national anthem. We all love our country, Nigeria. That anthem also stands as an opening prayer for the summit today, because the second stanza of our national anthem is actually a prayer for the upliftment of the country. And we pray that as we go through this period of coronavirus worldwide, that the Lord will see every nation, every country through these trying periods by the grace of God. Okay, for this year's summit, we have a whole lot lined up for you. We have a whole lot lined up. We have wonderful speakers in the house. We have wonderful panelists all ready to take you through this year's summit. I have on standby our DG that will be giving us the welcome address, and also the convener should be coming on shortly after the DG to give you the welcome address. And as we go through today, I'll be giving us a little peep into the lineup of events for today. I would really like to know how many people are online and watching us as we speak. So please, if you are online, kindly give a thumbs up or a wave in the comment section so I know. I can see we have about 57 participants. I want us to be sure that everybody is listening to us right now. So I want to see 57 thumbs up or 57 waves. And also, I would like to know where you are listening from or where you are viewing from. I would like to know your state. If you are in Nigeria, the state that you're in, please drop in the comment section. Also, if you are watching or viewing from outside Nigeria, please, I would also like to know, just drop in the comment section. The host will be gathering this because I have plenty gifts ready for my online viewers today. We have a lot of gifts. At some point, I'll be needing every teacher that is listening, that is viewing, to tell us the school you are representing. Please don't do it immediately. I'm just letting you know. The minute I ask for that, please, I'd like every one of you to let me know if you're a teacher, write the name of the school that you are representing. And as soon as we see that, we'll know. Yes, I'm seeing comments. Thank you. We've risen to 59 participants. I'm seeing people from the Federal Capital Territory. I'm seeing from Port Harcourt. I've seen, I think, one person from Udo. Yeah, it's so lovely and so nice to have you all here. I won't take so much of your time. I'm going to leave this spot open now for the first speaker for today. He's going to be giving us the welcome address, and he's none other than the DG Lagos State, by the person of Mr. Lanre Mojola. Mr. Lanre Mojola. He's an experienced government administrator leading a team of dedicated directors and officers within the Lagos State Safety Commission. He has a demonstrated history of working in the built environment. His previous experiences includes working within the construction and facility services industry. He's skilled in negotiation, budgeting, operations management, risk management, and procurement. He's a strong business development professional with an MBA in facilities management, focused on business administration and management from the Sheffield Hallam University, Sheffield, UK. Also has MSc in facilities and asset management from the Heriot-Watt University, Edinburgh, UK. He has worked in management capacity in about 3 to 4 other establishments prior to his current office. Please join me as we welcome Mr. Lanre Mojola.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Madam Administrator. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. Good morning, everyone. I welcome you all to the School Safety Summit 4. It's the 4th series, organized by the Safety Check. The theme for today, First Aid and Casualty Assessment for Educators, is very apt, as it gives me great pleasure to deliver the welcome address at today's session. Firstly, let me commend the convener, Ms. Ugochi Obidiegwu for her steadfastness and commitment to putting the summit together despite the challenges of the novel coronavirus disease, COVID-19 pandemic, which has made it imperative for this year's event to be held through video conferencing. The theme for this summit, First Aid and Casualty Assessment for Educators, is very critical to the overall health, safety, and well-being of our children. This is because during school hours, children may be involved in incidents that can lead to bleeding, burns, head injuries, asthma attacks, fractures. They could even become unconscious, among several other incidents. As such, teachers must be equipped with the relevant knowledge and skill sets to identify injuries, recognize life-threatening conditions, deliver first aid support, and manage casualties in the event of accidents in the school setting. This will definitely present the worsening of the condition of the victims and also preserve life before adequate medical, where necessary, can be provided by appropriate medical personnel. Importance of having trained first aiders is therefore a must in today's school environment. The Lagos State government places a high premium on the well-being of children. That is why the Lagos State Safety Commission initiated the School Safety Project to ensure that schools provide a learning environment that is healthy and safe. The Commission will continue to broaden its school safety program to include over 6,000 public and private primary and secondary schools, to not only ensure that our schools are safer, but to also imbibe the safety culture in our students who are leaders of tomorrow. The achievements of this project include the provision of a school safety manual for schools in Lagos State, the inclusion of safety in the primary and junior secondary school curriculums of the state, inauguration of school safety prefects in public and private schools. It's the first of its kind in the country and indeed in West Africa. Safety training of safety ambassadors and safety prefects statewide within all schools. Ongoing schools of tertiary schools such as the Lagos State Model Colleges, and also ongoing risk assessments of schools following the COVID-19 pandemic. We know that if our children were to go back to school, they need to go back to safe buildings, they need to go back to safe environments. As such, we're currently carrying out risk assessments, particularly thinking about COVID and the impact on our children. Following several years of sensitization and awareness creation on the importance of complying with school safety standards, the Commission will intensify the conduct of safety audits in public and private schools to ensure that all safety guidelines captured in the Lagos State Safety Manual are complied with. This is because we envisage a Lagos where our pupils return home safely after a long day at school. As such, I call on every one of you to join hands and support the Commission and indeed the larger safety stakeholders in keeping our schools safe. The COVID-19 pandemic has changed the way we live, the way we school, the way we work, and the way we play. As such, the new reality is that we need to refresh and relearn as we go now into the future. In choosing schools for their children, parents will pay a lot more attention to the health and safety practices available within these schools going forward. The importance of first aid in schools promotes a sense of safety as teachers and students with good knowledge of first aid are likely to be more alert and active. Quick treatment also helps preserve lives following the incidents. I do not doubt that this summit will be successful given the caliber of the professionals on the roll call of panelists, just as I expect a very interactive and interesting session. I look forward to receiving your communique with practical, innovative ideas on how we can make our schools safer. I wish us all fruitful discussions. Keep safe, stay alive. Thank you. God bless.
God bless you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
That was a wonderful speech from RDG. I'll be asking the viewers and listeners questions at some point concerning the address that you just gave. And like you said, the communiques will be returned to you via the safety check for those that probably have questions or inputs that can help to better the safety situations in our schools going forward. Thank you very much, sir. Okay, so viewers, I'd like to help us to note one or two things that are going on in the community of the safety chick. She has recently created a child safety story booklet on the coronavirus. So if you have parents online, teachers representing their schools that would like, you can download for free on her website, that is www.thesafetychick.com. We can see that our safety chick she's not holding back in any way at all. Coronavirus has not stayed in Nigeria for how long? She already has a booklet to help our children. So I believe if we have some interest of our children at heart, we should also have the interest of our children at heart by getting these valuable documents so that we can read it as parents and also use it to put our children through. God bless you as you do so. Going forward, I would also like to state that I've said it before, we actually have a lot of gifts ready and available that we are going to be gifting to schools, gifting to participants that are on board. We have airtimes to give out, we have face masks to give out. We also have first aid boxes to award to schools that are listening. So please, the only way those first aid boxes can get to you would be if you have a lot of your representative, a lot of your teachers watching or listening. So if I were you, I'm a school here, I would call on my other teachers to come and join so that I can get something. The first aid box, I am sure, is going to be a pleasant, a wonderful gift for the school. So please get others to come on board and watch so that we can know how many of you are here, and the gift will most probably come to your school. Right about now, I'm going to be giving the space up for our convener, Ms. Ugochi Obidiegwu. I like pronouncing her name a lot. The safety chick. She's a convener of the Safety School Summit and the founder and managing partner of ULOMCA. She's also a child safety advocate, a safety education consultant, author of the child safety book, Adventures of Mona, which has up to 3 series at present. I would also include the little booklet that I just told you about. It's also it's not one of the series, but it's still from Adventures of Mona. She's a fellow of the Yearly Regional Leadership Center and a Mandela Washington fellow as well. And she has a lot more other achievements under her sleeves that if I begin to list, we might take maybe like another 1 hour. She's a wonderful, wonderful personality that I've come to know and I see and take as a sister. Please join me as we welcome our convener. As we will do, please, I want to see claps, waves, thumbs up to say that you are joining me in giving her a round of applause. A round of applause to you. Welcome, you're welcome. Over to you, please.
Okay, good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I am so happy that we are doing this. I'm so happy that today is here. So regardless of whatever happens, today is already a success. So I'm thankful that you are present. Okay, so welcome to the 4th edition of the School Safety Summit. Every year we have this event as a physical event, but due to social distancing, this is the first time we're having it as a fully virtual event. Well, the advantage of that is we're able to have people from other states outside Lagos, other countries, and even other continents outside Africa. I went through the registration list and I saw that we had people who registered from across 10 countries. That is just so fantastic. So I'm happy that we are doing this, and this is being recorded so that even after now, you'll be able to have access to this. When we started the School Safety Summit in 2017, it was because we wanted to bridge the knowledge gap between educators and safety professionals. So we saw that avoidable accidents kept happening, children were dying, and we just felt, okay, if we are able to bridge this knowledge gap, equip the educators, teachers, parents with knowledge, to some extent, these things would be reduced. And that is what led to the School Safety Summit. So in 2017, our theme was, is your child safe in school? In 2018, it was emergency response preparedness for schools. In 2019, through the support of the US Department of State on the platform of the Mandela Washington Fellowship, we were able to work with an American, and the theme was safety and education of the child with special needs. Now, this year, the theme is first aid and casualty assessment for educators. This theme came to me towards the end of last year because I kept hearing stories of children dying. So there was a case of a child who died in a creche of choking just because nobody knew what to do. There was also another case in a school where a child drowned, and many things like that. And I just thought, okay, we need to have this platform so that more educators will be able to identify the common hazards that can occur in school, the common first aid scenarios, and know what to do. To that end, I've been able to bring amazing safety professionals. We have our keynote speaker from the UK. She's going to be speaking to us very soon. We have first aid professionals, trainers. They are so good at what they do that I just had to clear the stage for them. They'll be coming up very soon, and they'll be having practical sessions for us so that you would know what to do. Now, by the time they are done, if you would love to have a certificate, we'll drop the link in the comment section so that you can visit the website, answer just a few questions so that we'll be sure you actually learned something today, and then you would get your certificate. So it's my hope that by the end of today, you would have learned a lot, and not just learning, you'd be able to begin to see how to implement it when you go back to school. Now, speaking about going back to school, I know that the pandemic has switched things up. Some people did not finish second term, and now we are here. Some people have been able to put on their e-learning systems, while some people have not been able to do that. The truth is, regardless of all what we are trying to do online, at some point, we are going to have to go back to a physical school building. And so you need to prepare. If you were not prepared for the pandemic, you can still prepare for your school to be ready so that even after we have to go back to school, parents feel safe to send their children to you. So to that effect, I'll be sharing with you how to prepare for a post-COVID school resumption. That was not part of the plan at all, but I just thought to bring it in and just educate also that we are equipped. So I'll be sharing my screen with you so that we can run through this very, very briefly, because we have a lot of fantastic things to talk about regarding first aid. But I just want to run through this with you as quickly as possible, so that I can be sure that you are with me. Okay, so I see a thumbs up from Mr. Dakwamolade. Thank you, Mr. Dakwamolade. Guys, courtesy of Hybrid Group, that is why we have first aid boxes to give you. So you need to put some thumbs up or clap or just do something in the comment section to appreciate Hybrid Group for supporting us with the first aid boxes for you. Okay, so preparing for a post-COVID school resumption. So Mary has already introduced me, so I won't say too much about that. Now, COVID-19 disrupted the education system. And like I mentioned earlier, some people have been able to find a rhythm with their e-learning systems, but at some point we would have to go back to physical classrooms. And the truth is, so many parents are wary of sending their children back to school because of what is going on. So how can you, an educator, a school owner, how can you build the confidence of your parents so that they're willing to send their children back to you? Because nobody wants this thing to cascade after we've tried to flatten the curve. So what are the things that you can do to ensure that safety is not compromised? So I'm part of the school safety committee that is put together by SIEF, the Safety Empowerment and Advocacy Foundation. And we had this conversation, and some of the things we came up with is what I'll be sharing with you today. There are three major phases when you are preparing for a post-COVID school resumption. There is the pre-resumption phase, there is the resumption phase, and of course, there is the post-resumption phase. Now, what are you doing in the pre-resumption phase? Fumigation and general cleaning. The truth is, we've all been home, right? So you don't know what has happened in your school. As a matter of fact, I have it under authority that there were actually some schools that were used as isolation centers in some states in this country. So regardless of where you are, whether your school was used as an isolation center or not, you've got to do thorough fumigation and general cleaning so that you are sure that you're bringing people into a safe space. The next thing you need to do is you need to plan to have a staff meeting with your teachers. Why do you need a staff meeting? We have new realities on ground. So you need to be able to discuss, what are we going to do? What new procedures are we going to have? What are we going to do about hand washing? What are we going to do about classroom social distancing? If you can see the picture on the screen, even the meeting, everybody is experiencing social distancing. That is how it should be. You need to have that meeting. So what's going to be the procedure before children step into school? What will be the procedure for hand washing? Are you going to have physical water and all that? Or are you going to have sanitizer spots? What are you going to do? If you have too many people in your classrooms, what are you going to begin to do so that you're going to ensure you have social distancing? Bearing in mind that the minimum is between 1 meter to 1.5 meters. So these are the kind of conversations you should have in your staff meeting and come up with ideas, plans that suit your unique context. Now, it's important that after you have created the plan, you've got to do training. And when I mean staff training, I mean all staff, whether it's teaching staff or non-teaching staff. Because the truth is, if some staff know what to do and some others do not know, there's going to be a problem. So we have to ensure that all staff are trained on these new procedures and there are plans for enforcement. The next is, what is your PPE plan? PPE means personal protective equipment. The government of Lagos has said everyone must begin to wear face masks. And I'm sure you probably have that kind of information or legislation, regulation in your own location. So you need to ask yourself, who is going to provide the PPE? Are we buoyant enough to provide it for the students and staff? Or are we going to demand for our parents to ensure that the children have it? These are the kinds of conversations you should begin to have. And then the next thing you need to think of is, what would be the standard operating procedure if a case shows up in school? Many times people wait for something bad to happen and then they start scrambling all over the place. But this is your chance to plan ahead. So let's say we have done everything, we have put all these fantastic plans in place. What if a case shows up in school? You've got to have a plan of how that will be managed from the beginning to when the case will be handed over to NCDC and all that. You must have that as part of your planning during your pre-resumption phase. And then of course, school bus plan. We're doing social distancing, so that means your bus is most likely going to take half of its current seating capacity. Now, the next one is the resumption phase. So you have done all your fantastic plans. School students are coming to school. What are the things you are going to do? You've got to have plans for health and temperature checks. You've got to determine how your hand washing station and sanitizer spot would go. In some organizations, there is a staff that would put the dispenser on your hand by his or herself, so that you are not touching it with dirty hand, and then we avoid the case of cross-contamination. So you need to begin to think about that. How are we going to ensure that the hand washing spot does not now become a breeding ground for germs? What is going to be the procedure? Okay. The next is training, information, and instruction of learners. So now you have trained your staff. You've got to also train the students. They need to understand that we are in a new era. So what is expected of them per time? The next is assembly protocol. So we were doing social distancing. Imagine that we actually have to do social distancing on the assembly queue. If you picture your school's assembly ground in your mind's eye, you can see that that might not contain everybody if you do social distancing, right? So you've got to begin to think, what can be the alternative ways of having assembly? Why is assembly important? Is it because of information dissemination? Is there a way to disseminate this information without having physical assembly? You need to begin to think about this, considering your unique context. And then of course, playground supervision also, because again, we're doing social distancing. PPE usage, I've already said what PPE means, personal protective equipment. So you're also checking that, okay, are the students wearing them? If they're not wearing them, maybe they cannot access the school premises, you know, things like that. And then you're also checking that during this resumption phase, school bus plan is being implemented. Again, if you are in a school that is overcrowded, you might begin to think of having new schedules. Is it possible to have classes on alternate days, or we have morning shift or afternoon shift? These are just things you must begin to think about. Play around the ideas. Now, the thing is, at some point, government is going to bring the national regulation on this, because we worked on this at the back end and very soon it's going to be out there for you. But in the meantime, prepare. I always say it's better to have knowledge and not need it than need it and not have it. So just begin to play around with ideas, begin to think, okay, how can this work within my space? Okay. Then the next is your post-resumption phase. So you've done some fantastic work already. How are you going to ensure that going forward, it is maintained? This is where enforcement and compliance comes in. You've got to ensure that people are always committed to maintaining the rules in this new normal. Otherwise, one person can endanger so many others. Some days ago, I heard in the news that in Ghana, one factory worker infected over 500 people. And imagine that this is a school environment. You know how bad this can be. So you need to ensure that everyone is compliant with your existing new rules. The next is you must have continuous cleaning plans, because you know that one of the issues about this virus is that commonly touched surfaces are a breeding ground. So you've got to have that. And then, of course, continuous screening protocols. You won't say, we've screened for the past 1 week and 2 weeks, we are good. No. Bearing in mind that your staff, your students always leave your school premises. Most of them would enter public transportation. They're interfacing with so many others who you have no idea where they have been or what they have. So you've got to ensure that your screening protocols continue. And then, of course, your isolation plans must be set properly, so that if a case is now found in school, you know, okay, this is how we are going to do it. This is who we are going to call. This is how we are going to evacuate the person. You don't have those plans in place. In summary, I'd like to say that as you begin to think of your resumption plans, you need to take note of your unique school's context when you are creating the plans. So when government brings out the protocols, you have to ask yourself, how can I domesticate this protocol to fit my school? So my school is a bungalow. Say my school is in a rural area. So my school is in the middle of town. So my school is a 3-story building. How can you domesticate these national protocols that will be released to you very soon to suit your context? Context is very, very important. So I hope this has really been a good use of your time. I just thought to sneak that in very briefly. And now I have to hand over to the MC so that we can get on with the rest of the activities for today. Please make sure that you are free to ask questions. Our panelists are loaded. We are here to help, basically. This is a knowledge transfer session. So feel free to ask questions. No question is silly. We would answer them as much as we can. Thank you all so much for listening, and welcome once again to the 4th edition of the School Safety Summit.
Dear wonderful convener, ladies and gentlemen, I can see that we are being stingy with the upwards, the waves, the thumbs up. Please, I would like us to do something. Show me, let me see. I need to see people waving, thanking her for this beautiful welcome address. And I hope we're all tuned in, because I'm going to be asking questions. I purposefully did not state that it is from her speech that the questions for my first set of gifts will be coming, so that I am sure that people who had listened in. So before I call on the welcome address, and I'd like us to go to the comment section. This question is actually for those that will be gifting with airtime. Please, I would like to know the full name of the DG, Lagos State Safety. The way we'll be doing this, the first person to comment and comment correctly is the person that will be giving this gift. So my host, my co-hosts are there checking this, and they would get back to you to get your information and the airtime for today. The full name, I can see people answering. I can see a lot of. Okay, remember, it's you get it if your answer is correct, because I'm seeing a lot of people. If you are Yoruba, you understand what I'm going to say next. Don't put his Oriki, because I can see people going as well as saying Lanre Mojola and all of that. Before you come and give me the name that his mother gave him, please just put the name that I mentioned today, that I mentioned this morning. Thank you very much. Okay, my second question, our convener listed 3 phases for preparation for school resumption in helping out with the pandemic. So please list 3 of those phases and list them accordingly, please. I want a list of the 3 phases, list them accordingly, and we will get back to you and give the gifts. This all the airtime gifts. So I'm looking. Remember, your answer should be done correctly. And if possible, please list them on one comment. Don't do separately, because it will be difficult to follow. Just one comment, list the 3 phases. List the 3 phases. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to be leaving the space open for the participant that will be giving us the keynote address. The keynote address. I want to believe she's online. Is she online? Can I get? Okay, she's online. She's none other than Mrs. Funmi Adegbola. See, I was born and brought up in Lagos. I am trying with these names, but today, oh my God. Some people, let me not say my village people, they want to remove that Yoruba accent. Solutions Limited, a leading in UK and Africa. She's a founder of the Young Lifesavers Academy, an HSC school club dedicated to empowering the young generation. She's also the principal director for HSC Hire, a leading specialist safety and health recruitment agency in Africa. Mrs. Funmi is a certified HSE instructor and an auditor of international qualifications and certifications with masters in occupational health, safety and environment, and with and worthy of mention, she is an author of a child safety book. In fact, let me breathe. She has so much in her portfolio. See me here, I do not have this much to do. In fact, having to MC this event and going through the list of the panelists and the speakers and all of that, I'm like, Mary, what have you been doing? Time is going on. I need to be having things like this listed up for when, you know, I'll be probably speaking at an event and they bring out my portfolio and they'll be like, wow, don't worry, I have some things up my sleeve too. It might not be this big, but someday I'll get to the PhD level. So I'm opening the floor for Mrs. Funmi. You're welcome on board, madam. Please pay attention. If I ask questions, do not say I did not tell you. I'm giving you a spoon now. Thank you. Ms.
Thank
Funmi.
you very much, Mary. That was a beautiful introduction, quite comical as well, and very needful. The face muscle needs to work, doesn't it?
Yes,
and on this Tuesday morning, we need to get it going, particularly. Thank you very much for that. And I would like to also say a huge thank you to our convener. You said something about how somebody, your village people, something. She is absolutely beautiful inside out. And I would really want to use this platform to say thank you very much for allowing me on here to speak to, to speak to your viewers, your attendees. It's such a rare privilege. Thank you very much. I do not take that for granted. And I also want to commend and recognize your tenacity, your creativity as well in this, dispensation that we're in. It's amazing the work you do behind the scene and obviously in public as well, in advocacy and propelling child safety in Nigeria and beyond. Well done, I must say, for that. Okay, so I will go on very quickly I'm going to try and share my screen. And if you could just give me a thumbs up when you can see my screen. The angle that I would like to go with it is more of first aid being business critical, and of course beyond the sick bay. It's quite important in an education setting that it can actually make or break the institution. So I thought, for educators, for teachers, parents as well, this is quite an apt time to talk about this, especially as kids are away from school. However, some schools are getting ready to go back. I know over here in the UK, our Prime Minister announced that year ones and year six can begin to look at going back on the 1st of June. So I'm not sure what the plan is for Nigeria, but I'm sure at some point, children will definitely need to go back into school, and we all need to be well prepared. Ugochi say as well, the three different phases that we need to pay particular attention to as we look forward to our children going back to school. So again, my name is Funmi Adegbola, and they've done the honors of obviously saying a little bit about who I am. So I'm not going to talk about that. I'm just going to head right on into today. First thing is, what people have so many interpretations of it, and I thought it's worth, giving a backdrop and, defining what really first aid is. Some people would think it's plaster, it's bandages and all of that, but what exactly is first aid, so that we make sure that there's no confusion anywhere. So after first aid is an important life, helps reduce of injuries before medical intervention. So for many, I remember many years back when I do teach first aid, I still do, but and I remember then when somebody asked me a question, oh, wow, so I can do everything. And I'm like, well, you can do what you've been taught and stay within the confines of what you've been taught, and don't get excited, that you're all of a sudden a doctor now. So we, as first aider, or first aid is just an interim intervention before, the medical guys get there. And of course, it's also, it plays an important role in providing, for staff and pupils, it creates a sense of purpose and achievement, giving them the skills that they will need to potentially save a life. Okay, so as you can see in some of the images there, this is one of the schools in Nigeria. I think it's Grange, and it's amazing. You can see the smile on the girl's face, just knowing how to learning one skill, one topic out of so many topics within first aid, and that sense of achievement that, wow, I can do this. I can step in the event something happens to my friend before they get the nurse, or before they get her to the nurse, if you see what I mean. So that then brings me to why is first aid business critical, because that is my topic, and that's the message for today. And I thought to define what business critical is, it's necessary for a business to be successful. School setting, it is a business for the school owners. So it's important that they are in business and it's sustainable, but most importantly as well, protecting the lives of the people, the custodians, protecting the lives of the people that they've put in their hands. So why is first aid business critical? I say for three core reasons. It is deemed as business critical from a compliance perspective, because there's a duty on the employer, just like we've heard Mr. Lanre Mojola come on as a regulator. There is a lot of work, like go to best practices, within Nigeria and international as well, to keep Nigeria at par with international, counterparts. Also, that there is the moral reason, because every child's life matters. Nobody wants to send their child to school. Just like we heard the scenario from Ugochi as well, that what led to the topic actually late last year for this year is the incidences that we've been hearing, a child drowning in school, a child dying from just ordinary choking, teachers not knowing or caregivers not knowing how to administer basic first aid. And lastly, of course, it's business critical because it does impact the bottom line somehow. So good health and safety, or good first aid provision in a school, as we will see as we go on, it does impact the bottom line, and poor first aid provision likewise can impact our bottom line. So when I say from the compliance perspective, as Ugochi has said, there is a lot of work going on behind the scene on making sure Nigeria is coming up with the adequate instrument, legislative instrument to help schools align. But, like doesn't mean that we shouldn't do anything. So in the absence of nothing, or in the absence of work in progress, what can we do? And so I've just referenced the UK as one that we perspective, there actually is a law that mandates schools, that mandates employers to ensure the safety and well-being of their employees, and even everyone or anyone affected by their operations. We have the Section 4 that also places a duty on anyone responsible for workplace premises as well. So they must ensure the school building, the school facility is safe for the children in this context. Section 7 as well states that there's a duty on every employee as well. So for the teachers as well, they have a duty. So it's not just the head teacher or the management, even as individual teachers, there is a duty placed on them. And then, of course, in line with the theme that we're looking at, particularly, there is a Health and Safety Regulation 1981 that, of course, also places a duty on employer to ensure that they provide adequate and appropriate equipment, facilities, and personnel to enable first aid to be given to employees and, of course, anyone that becomes ill within their premises. So from the moral perspective, I would say it's a fundamental right for parents and for children. Every child has a right to be alive, and it should not be because of poor first aid provision in a school that they have to lose their lives or make a parent lose a child. It is key, from a moral perspective, that educators need to have right provision in place for these reasons. And therefore, parents must inquire and inspect first aid facilities during school selection. So when you are trying to pick school for your kids, it's something that you need to have at the forefront to think that, now, even more than before, post-COVID era, you need to ensure school facilities, your children's school, have the right provision in place for that. Talked about financial reasons. I'm not going to dwell too much on that, but it does have financial implication. There are fines, just like we heard the DG has said, that they are doing a lot. And so if you do not want to find yourself in a position where you're paying fines, then of course you need to align. This is one of the reasons why first aid is quite imperative, in this dispensation that we're in. Of course, compensation will be there. The child that lost their life, you have to worry about, your compensation is never going to bring back the child, definitely, but it is another money that you've got to cough out. You've got to compensate somehow. There's the reputational damage. We know of schools that were mentioned in a newspaper, which is not where you want to be mentioned. Of course, you want to be in the newspaper, but for good reasons, if you see what I mean. So not for that. So you've got to look at the cost of reputational damage, cost of insurance to your business, and of course, associated indirect costs as well. So educators need to take this into consideration. So physical first aid and the sick bay, right? School must have facilities to allow provision of basic first aid, right? And so when, again, to parents, to teachers, to educators, proprietors, proprietresses, who's the employer? The Board of Governors as well. We need to ensure that the facilities for first aid, there are precautions against infection. You reassure, it's the facility itself sends a sense of reassurance and comfort, and independence as well. It also provides privacy, confidentiality, and of course the first aid materials in there should be of good quality and of good standard. I've seen shocking health and safety kits. I've seen heart-wrenching, sick bays, and you're wondering, this is not a sick bay, this is a death trap, okay? And so I don't think it's appropriate for children to be exposed to that. So I would want to encourage educators, encourage parents to take this into serious consideration when picking school. Now, this is a very interesting part. And before I go on into it, like I said, when we hear first aid, there's so many things that comes to mind, plasters and what have you. And we see just the physical, the scar of first aid that perhaps we don't really talk about that much. And I just wanted to bring it to our attention and maybe give some level of, consideration to moving forward. A psychological first aid, and this is beyond the sick bay, okay? So this is the injury that you do not actually see a child going through, but they are going through it. So there's a true story, and I'm just going to spend a few minutes just to play a video very quickly of one of the kids that I actually pastor. And unfortunately, he's quite older now, actually, funny enough, but he gave a testimony, and I hope this, this is a few slides towards the end now. I'm just going to play his video, and I hope this kind of resonates and helps us to further see why this is quite important. So I'm not sure, can you see my screen? Can you give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen? Great. So hopefully if you can hear it as well, just give me a thumbs up that you can hear it.
All right, so I was 16 when I lost my friend to a cardiac arrest. I was in year 11 at the time, and this was approximately 7 years ago, so 2013. And we must have been playing football. We weren't actually allowed to be playing football at this particular time. It was after school. We needed supervision, but we didn't get supervision. And my friend Philip Lamin, a Nigerian boy just like me at the time, a lot longer than me, so I felt as if he was a lot more healthy, and he just collapsed on the field after actually scoring a goal. He collapsed, and at that particular moment in time, because he was quite a funny guy, we thought he was joking, and we were like, "Oh, what are you playing for?" It wasn't too long after that we had a friend who actually knew what was going on because his brother had suffered from the same thing, and he had seizures quite a lot. But this was quite new to us. Everyone else, more than a seizure. It was a cardiac arrest, and it was very, very shocking, very astounding at the time. So he had been making these noises. I'm assuming he was gasping for breath. And from the moment at which the ambulance had come, they had come approximately 30 minutes after we called the ambulance. Everyone was panicking and worried, and the ambulance didn't come in time. But it was to our attention that he had died instantly. And at the time, it was just so. I still, if I'm honest, didn't feel any different. I just had hope. It was more so just hope that I had. But since that day, this happened 7 years ago. Since that day, there's never been a day that hasn't crossed my mind. And since that day, I've never really been able to get over the situation. Although we had his mum there to talk to, we had teachers there to talk to, they wasn't really feeling it the same way we felt it. Not to say that his mum didn't or anyone felt it any different, but it was more so just like, this could have been me. The mental factor, no, this could have been me. We're the same age. You're Nigerian just like I'm Nigerian. You eat the same foods that I eat. We talk the same way. We walk the same way. And this could have been me. And, you know, when it actually came around to actually doing this video, it wasn't even anything new. It was just more so something outside my comfort zone, just because I think about this every day. Like, there hasn't been a day that I haven't thought about it.
Okay, so that was just to buttress the fact that, you know, there is beyond the physical, which happened on the day where his friend had died, you know, the physical first aid where they tried to offer. Unfortunately, they didn't have the knowledge to give, you know, he didn't know how to administer first aid. Nobody knew how to administer first aid. Teachers didn't know how to administer first aid. They sadly watched the boy and he died, okay? So what next is really the question. There are some injuries, like I said, that are beyond the physical eyes, and that is even more sensitive and peculiar to the school setting. So we have children who have to be exposed to watching their friends being injured, their friend going through some difficult times. What do we do outside of just the physical first aid? I want to implore teachers, I want to implore leaders to, you know, in the school setting, to take this into consideration that, you know, when children or an adult actually does experience a traumatic, you know, experience, we need to look beyond just the physical and see what provisions we can make, what mental first aid we can have in place for that. I mean, one of the things that we need to ensure to do this is to close the knowledge gap. And to do that, there are so many first aid courses that maybe educators need to be exposed to. And the list are here, and I'm sure, you know, I'm happy to Convener and they can pass this across. We've got the first aid at work emergency first aid, pediatric first aid. This is for children who go through, have some sort of allergic reaction. Automated external defibrillator. So if the school had a defibrillator, which could have helped in the case study that we just watched, that could have helped the child like to jumpstart his heart again. And of course, like I said, the first aid course. So on that note, I would like to say a very big thank you once again to our convener, who has given me a platform to come and share this with you, and of course to the educators as well, who would be taking this on board and implementing this in their schools. So like I said here, first aid is an option, it's very much mandatory. Thank you very much.